Welcome to Deep Dive. Today I am analyzing a phobia which I find to be particularly interesting, and coming up with a few theories for it, as well as trying to explain its psychological root. Let's look at the facts first. What is submechanophobia? Submechanophobia is a fear of man-made objects, submerged or partially submerged in water. Submechanophobia doesn't have to be restricted to boats, buildings, or animatronics. It could be anything at all man-made, from statues to apartment buildings. It really could be anything. But this does bring up some questions related to if the psychological root could be all the same. The phobia also affects a small amount of people, and diagnosed cases are extremely rare. This doesn't mean that you could not have a minor uncomfortable reaction, but it also doesn't mean you might not have a deep psychological scar related to it. It's all within how much it affects you, as this is entirely a psychological issue. First, I would like to explain what the psychological root could possibly be, and then explain the categories I've found and classifications I believe in. I've found many people online who refer to buoys or ropes as an early childhood fear, as they wondered where they went and how they could lead so deep underwater. This makes a lot of sense as to why it made them uncomfortable. The ocean is a scary and seemingly unknown place. It's the one place on Earth where our bodies are not adapted. The only place where for once our technology can't fully take it all in. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. To a child, a huge body of water could be very daunting. And not being able to see in the dark is a problem for everyone. When there is an entire biome where we could not survive, and we could not take it all in with our own eyes or truly understand it, this large gap of mystery and fear creates a lot of intrigue and a lot of phobias around it. It could be any sort of psychological trauma or experience, though. It could also just be purely genetic. There isn't enough research right now to find out, just personal experience. One thing, though, that would make this easier is an sort of a classification system for the different types of it, as it is so specialized that different types of that specification would make more sense, as it might not truly be submechanophobia, it could be something else. I've come up with a few basic classifications I would like to talk about. The first is boats. The fear of boats is a very common fear, referred to as naviphobia. This fear isn't that of the boat itself, but of being on the boat and either getting sick or being capsized. This fear could also come hand in hand with the fear of the ocean, thalassophobia, or any fear of any scenario in general relating to the boat sinking. This is very similar to the fear of planes, called aviphobia, which is again not of the plane's construction, but more of the scenario of it crashing or making them sick. Both planes and boats underwater could have a very similar reaction. On the surface, that doesn't sound very similar, but planes have crashed in the water quite a few times, and for some people, being stranded in the middle of the ocean is reason enough not to fly. Vehicles could also have a similar effect on the mind, as some may drive it over a bridge and feel the way others do when on a boat. And it is quite common for vehicles to end up crashing into bodies of water. So I believe that all of these could be under the flag of submechanophobia easily, though, as I will elaborate next, this should have a separate classification from other items being in the water, as an overall fear of transportation in the water itself could be the root of their fears, or it could be entirely the water itself and not of the transportation sinking into it. Though this is entirely speculation, and if you have a different idea, feel free to tell me about it. The second form of submechanophobia is that of submerged buildings. whether it be from a flood, hurricane, dam collapse, or anything else that sinks buildings. This is one of the smaller groups, as I have found very few pictures of flooded buildings under submechanophobia, but they all did have positive reception on them. I don't believe it should be labeled as submechanophobia, and here's why. I've discussed how it so far has been mostly boats or planes. The last one I will finish this video on is underwater animatronics. So why don't buildings fit into that? Because the other two mostly focus on mechanical parts, either malfunctioning or rising up against you. Now, of course, buildings will inevitably have some sort of mechanical element inside of them, but this doesn't seem to be the main draw of the fear. People afraid of the buildings probably aren't worried about those mechanical elements per se. They're more afraid of the building itself sinking into the water or them being inside of the building. This is in direct violation where they are worried about a mechanical failure in the other two. So, what could it classify under? I don't think it would be antlophobia, the fear of floods, because it only suggests floods in general and mostly focuses on the natural reactions that occur. So I feel like entirely this is more a fear of losing one's property or just the fear of something you can walk around in and a building you can inhabit suddenly being in a space that you no longer can be in, as water, again, is one of the few places on this earth where we cannot truly go by ourselves. It makes a lot of sense as to why this is a fear, but perhaps it's not the fear of the building itself or the structure. The last and most popular form of submechanophobia is that of animatronics. This is the only one that makes me a bit unnerved, especially those pictures of that drain 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride that used to be at one of the Disney parks. There's actually an entire website dedicated to this ride, and it documents its long and storied history. That's just something I discovered that's interesting. It has no bearing on the main discussion here. I'll leave the link to that in the description. Back to my main point. It seems like the animatronic spectrum comes from the fear of it attacking you. It could also be the fear of it hiding its true nature and just lying dormant. This, I believe, very well could be blanketed under submechanophobia, as it is classified as being mechanical in its own nature and human. This could be just a fear of animatronics, though, but again, automatophobia is the fear of a replication of the human being into machinery. And this isn't, most of the time, animatronics are not replicas of ourselves. They're replicas of animals or other creatures that can still give off the feeling. So maybe it's that eerie feeling that something that is just lying dormant that looks like a real animal is what worries you. It's just a side tangent, though. That has no bearing on the main discussion here. But the big takeaway from all this is that phobias, because of their small and low intensity, we really don't hear a lot about them. And there isn't enough psychological research done into them because there are so few cases. A lot of people claim to have a certain phobia, but to have a phobia is to truly be afraid of it. And while me and you may enjoy looking at submechanophobia because it makes us uncomfortable, we probably do not have any sort of reaction or true phobia to this. If we did, we probably wouldn't have fun looking at them. All these fears probably have very many different roots we have yet to see, but hopefully they will all come to light and we'll understand them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be sure to link my favorite of these videos and probably make a playlist of them. I don't know. One thing I do know for sure is I've made a compilation of my favorite pictures and uploaded it to my channel already. I'll leave a link to that at the very end of this video. I hope you had a wonderful day, and I will see you all later.